Hello, welcome to episode 4 of the podcast Londonia 2072. This podcast is to give away some free chapters from the audiobook of Londonia and also to give you some insights into its creation. So today I'm going to talk to the author, Kate A. Hardy, who is also the reader or voice actor. Hello, Kate.
Hello.
Something that many people have remarked on is that Londonia isn't the kind of audiobook where you're just listening to somebody reading a story, and it's quite unusual in that respect. There's a whole array of characters that have quite distinctive voices. So are these the voices that you heard in your head, so to speak?
Yeah, it's. I suppose I spent quite a long time devising Londonia and re-editing it, and over the years, the voices sort of crept into my head, and they live there with me. But yeah, when I actually came to start recording it, most of them were actually sort of ready placed. I had to invent some, and I had to do quite a bit of sort of thinking about how certain accents sound and doing some research. So, but yeah, most of them were sort of there really.
Yeah. But actually, this is your first foray into voice acting. You hadn't done this before.
No, I haven't done it at all. I enjoy speaking to audiences if I'm reading out loud. That's something that I realised I liked doing, and I do sing in jazz duos and things. So I'm quite used to sort of using my voice, but not necessarily in the spoken word.
So one of the characters is called Jarvis, and he's got a strong Cockney accent. I suppose that comes fairly natural to you. Naturally.
Yeah, I was actually born within the sound of Bow Bell, so Jarvis, yeah, he's definitely part of my personality, really. He's a good one. I really like Jarvis.
And so what about other London accents like Jake the Prophet, who introduces the book, who we heard in the very first podcast?
Yes, Jake was actually one I had to think about a bit because I didn't want him to sound like a straightforward Cockney accent or just a sort of estuary accent, and he wants to sound a little bit mysterious, so I sort of dropped the tone and talked to you like that. Hello, Hoxton. I see you're feeling a little bit down today. And because he's a bit of a mystic and he can tell things about you, he wants to be, he's not creepy at all, but he's, there's a mysterious aspect to him.
Okay, well, talking about mysterious aspect, there's another character called Marina,
Mm-hmm.
who is a mirror dame or a fortune teller. And what can you tell her about her character, her accent? It's a kind of East European, Russian sort of sound.
Yeah, it's a sort of, I don't have any knowledge of this particularly. I did listen to a few sort of videos and I love the accent, so I'll try and do a bit now. you have to get into the mode. Thought I'd be seeing you sometime. So it's an accent that has a sort of bubbling up feeling to it. A lot of the words are quite different, and I really like speaking like this. Perhaps I will adopt it for my normal voice.
Okay, lastly, could you do us a bit of Parrot, who's African Caribbean Jamaican? There's actually a few Jamaican characters in there.
Yeah, that's a difficult one because I didn't want to sort of make it a pastiche thing, but there's so many other accents in the book. I needed to put something in, so I don't know if I can just do it on the spot. Hang on a minute. Yo, Jarvis, you pass me that jar there, man. That's probably about it. And I'll do a little bit of French, because the French one's really interesting, because if I don't do the bodily movements with it, it turns into Russian. So I have to get into the character for generally anything French. I would I have to raise the shoulders, and I have to do a lot of and would you like, that is a bit of Russian came out. Would you like to have a glass of wine with me? It's still going a bit Russian. Not quite in the mode there.
But I can see the body language here, obviously, and the fact that you turn your mouth into a kind of tube, lips.
Always a lot of facial expressions and stuff going on. Yeah.
And of course, there's lots of sort of posh sounding voices, gangsters, and what's her name? Iona Hedge Fund.
Oh yes, Iona Hedge Fund. There's a lot of twittery women in the sanctuary, but I wanted Mrs. Hedge Fund to have a rather different voice, and sometimes she sounds a little bit like Margaret Thatcher, and sometimes she sounds a little bit more like Princess Di. I like her lower voice, and I wasn't sure when I was doing it, but when I listened back to it, I'm quite pleased with it.
And she's a character who, although she sounds posh, has very different things going on in her mind.
Yes, she wants to leave the sanctuary and make her way into Londonia at some point.
Well, thank you, Kate. We're going to carry on and listen to Chapter 2 of Londonia.
I hope you enjoy it. Capitula 2. Ravel's deconstructed waltz echoes around the vestry walls as I search for the promised bottle of wine. The music warps slightly as the ancient gramophone winds down. I give the handle a few turns. I'm still feeling elated from the return to Londonia. Elated but spiky with nerves after being in that place. Ah, the bottle, gotcha. Of course, I hid it in the gramophone cupboard. The dogs are barking. It must be Jarvis. A few moments later, the door opens and Jarvis and Parrot come in, stamping their feet. Putain fucker, it's Friday! Parrot's deep voice rings out above the music. I leave the warmth of the vestry to welcome them. Hey, kitten! Jarvis greets me with a hug, snowflakes falling from his coat onto my face. Hey! I'm so pleased to see them that tears start welling. What the fuck? He stands back a little and looks at my red face. I'm fine. Take your coats off and I'll tell you about it. They unwrap. Parrot's face emerges from the parka's fur, his shock of afro hair springing into its crazy shape. He cocks his head and listens to the music drifting. Coolo classical, you one upmarket chick. He kisses me, smiles and grabs Jarvis, whirling him into a waltz. Jarvis dumps a cloth bag on the table. Dak, we got eel stew and a tin of apricots. That's good, as I've got potatoes ready, and there's just enough milk to make custard, I say, checking a canister. Where'd you get custard? The cafe are making it, now they've got cornflour again. Is Parrot ça va? I ask as we watch him dancing in the shadows. He's had a bad day on the barges. Some guy killed himself with a fish scaling knife. It was bloody. Turned Lady Thames right red. He's had some stuff. Not sure what. He'll clear off in a bit. He won't miss the scran. Did you get the jack? Yeah, feisty sod. Be a good ratter. I'll divvy up with you tomorrow. So what the fuck do you been in there, right? What's it like then? I don't know where to start, really. Just remember everything you ever heard about it and add several tea chests of weird and ridiculous. Ah, and Kafka? You take him in? No, they keep the horses at the wall. He seems fine, though. Tell me about weird, then. I describe the day as Parrot comes back and sits down next to Jarvis, head on his shoulder, calm now. How did God power? Where it come from? He asks. I shake my head. I've no idea. She wasn't exactly the Encyclopaedia Britannica. Or if she was, she kept it to herself. You didn't parlour then? Only about what she wanted. Which is what? Asked Jarvis, a half smile playing. A certain piece of furniture. Easy? Well, you remember that habitat table request? He grimaces with the memory. Yeah. Worse. IKEA cabinet, circa 2025. Murder! The metal pot is hissing on the wood stove. Taking it off, I ladle the stew into 3 bowls, adding potatoes. I hand the bottle of wine to Parrot, and he finds a corkscrew, yanking out the cork with a satisfying that echoes around the ancient stone. He takes 3 glasses from the cupboard and pours the deep red liquid. The wobbly recycled glass isn't worthy of the wine, but we clink them and smile in anticipation of something worth drinking. Holy festering dog carcass, says Jarvis, taking another slug and letting it wash around. That's the real crapping deal. Got any more? I'm afraid not. Back to Bert's eau de vie, whatever he makes it out of. Best not to ask. The plummin weren't too shite, though. The stew is thick and tastes of the river, but it's heavenly. I eat 2 helpings, put the bowl down for the cat, and sit back sighing. Oh, that's better. Zorro slinks out from behind the stove and licks the remains, his one eye a jewel in the candlelight. Well, what we really need to know, says Jarvis, draining his glass, is what's the deal? For the cabinet? Yeah, for this Murdic pizzing thing. Well, to start, I've asked her for your mother's glasses. Jarvis beams. Apex, does she think it'll be difficult? No, she seemed totally confident about getting them made, and quickly. What else then? It's a foiling difficult find. Basic medical supplies. And I want her to help me. Jarvis sits back and runs a hand through his mad greying hair. Huh? Something happened in there. I was given information about me. The wine has deadened the nagging thoughts a little, but they rush back. Tears fall. Hey, hey, says Parrot, handing me a vast handkerchief. God, what information? I wipe away the tears roughly and give them the tale. I met a dame in the cleansing area. She told me I had or have a goss, and it was born in the sanctuary. I need to know more. How the fuck does she know? Sputters Jarvis. She's a mirror dame. Also, she saw the scar. What scar? I have one, faint, across here. I gesture to the layers covering my stomach. Just a line, sure, he says, pulling up his own numerous layers and pointing to grime-encrusted folds of skin. Seeing that he needs to know, I stand and yank up the 2 woolen felties. There, as sure as the bread mech is going to give me l'enfer tomorrow. A scar, see? He leans forward and traces the line with a stubby finger. Could be something else. Appendix? That higher up, man, says Parrot. My gran, she had one done, for the unknown time. Any lane, surely you'd have the nous about it. You feel anything, girl? I never did before. Always assumed it was an accident or something from when I was a goss. But now it feels odd, like someone is out there thinking about me. Well, if that's the deal, so be it, sulks Jarvis, returning to the finding matter. But what could this IKEA-obsessing dame know about anyhow? Her husband's a doctor in there. Yeah, well, he might as well be the bleeding almighty in a hat box for what use it'll do you info-wise. I'm going to get to know her, I say stubbornly. I'll find this maudlin piece of furniture somehow. Lane, wouldn't you want to know a bit more about what goes on in there? Jarvis shakes his head. From what you say, think I'll stick to Chaosville, Grazie. His leathery face breaks into a grin. I'll help you though, kitten. Course I will. You got the glasses, and that's colossal good. How you going to start the finding then? Well, first I'm going to go and see the mirror dame, just to see what else she knows. Then there's that new shouting house quite near where she lives. They trade a lot of stuff from before the curtain. Vray, might be the place to start. You got a picture of it, this cabinet? No, she wouldn't rip it out of the precious book. I've got the details, though. I'll draw it for you. I search for an unused piece of paper. A scrap of tea packet suffices, and I sketch the thing, adding the name and dimensions. "Splot!" exclaims Parrot, looking at the card in Jarvis's hand. "What? That the name of it?" "All their stuff had names," says Jarvis. "That shelf what you put up in the kitchen was called Git. Still had the label on it after all them cycles." We're quiet for a while, reflecting on the past. Then Jarvis jumps up. "Oh, the drawing, nearly forgot, didn't I?" He finds the cloth bag again and reaches inside. "There you go." He hands me a rolled up piece of paper, and I unfurl it to find a detailed pencil drawing of the street, the church, and me astride Kafka. Parrot peers over. "Hey, Jarvis, that damn good. Like the topper too, H." Jarvis takes the drawing back and holds it at arm's length, squinting. "Yeah, looks like the street, except someone's dragged that car off somewhere." "You should do more," I suggest. "Well, maybe. Got the violin to practice too." Parrot sighs, his breath an exhausted whistle. "Need to sleep, Jarvis. Got to block these cycles out." "Stay," I offer. "Kafka's haystack is shoddy, and I've got some warm blankets too." The thought of the two mechs sharing the building is good. I feel the nightmares creeping already. "Dak," says Jarvis, stretching. "Want some peppermint leaves, kitten?" "I've got tooth powder, thanks. See you at sunrise." We kiss, and they wander arm in arm to the straw, chewing the leaves. There's no need to flit a freezing cloth around my body, as I'm still clean from the caustic shower. I burrow deep in the bedding with Zorro, the hot water bottle. Sleep ebbs and then flows, soaking my mind. The first dreams disturbed by Parrot's ecstatic yelp as he climaxes away, images of the crimson Thames. Jarvis and Parrot have gone. They left early. Parrot to unload grain on a barge. Jarvis a multitude of findings to be done. I can't clear my head of the sancture, so decide on a walk and a mental list. Kafka rolls in his sawdust, snorting, imagining the off. "Sorry," I say, slapping his rump. "A bit later." His food sorted, I sling the Winchester over my back, heave on the leather knapsack and open the door. The dogs are whirling fiends this morning. The gun means a serious walk and rabbits. I lock the door, clang the gate behind me, and scrabble with the heavy padlock as I catch a sight of the bread mech's cart approaching. "Hoxton!" he yells. Too late. I'm halfway down the road, the dogs straining on their ropes. As we reach Allensfield, I let them off, and they're away, snuffling the piles of bricks, snatching at rodents as they scatter. I cross the decayed railway lines and stand for a while, looking down the tunnel of trees at the rusted bodies of trains, now homes, smoke snaking from makeshift chimneys. Rabbits are few today. In the distance I see the silhouette of a mech walking, a long branch across his shoulders, a few carcasses strung, dangling. Murder! "Come on, Fagin, seek them out. He can't have got them all." The dog redoubles his efforts and is rewarded as a hare dashes, zig-zag zig, scattering grit and bark. He shares the bloody breakfast with Tilly as I wander into the park place. The thick woodland is still shiny with frost, steam rising from the piles of rotting leaves as rays of sun hit patches of light snow. The dark hulk of Prophet Jake's hut looms in the mist. Should I go and see him? Time can become lost in that dark space, but I've solved problems too there in the past. He's a good trading point. Just half a clock face. I've got to see the Mirror Dame. I knock on the peeling door and it creaks open a little, then wider as Jake's red-rimmed eyes take me in. "Hoxton, come in and give me the news." I decide not to embark on the cincture information, as I will be here until darking. "Tea?" he continues. clunking a blackened pot on the wood burner. Vray? No, 3 weed, but I have got milk. Dac, lovely. He turns from the burner and stares at me. You've been somewhere very different, haven't you? I sigh internally, remembering he always knows whatever you think he won't. Yes, very different. Sanctuary? What's it like? Dreadful. Not like out here dreadful, different. He hands me a tin cup. The metal's heat feels good, seeping through the wool of my gloves. You learn some personal stuff too. I take my pocket watch out. Half a clock face already gone. Jake's odd magic is enfolding me, but I don't want to talk to him about the scar. The dame already knew. I need to see her. Another time, he says, sensing my angst. So, I think you are after trade info. Yes, but first Jarvis says you want a bit of help with writing, and we still owe you for the scissors. Would that be a good deal? Certainly, he says with a beamy smile. Whenever you've got the time. It's seeing all those words appear on paper at the press. How's the charcoal ink working? Good. And we're experimenting with pokeberry and walnuts for colour. I've got more gum arabic, I say, remembering a recent find. I'll bring it over soon. Marvel. So what are you seeking? I'm looking for furniture, a certain piece from the 2000s. He takes his patchy wool hat off and scratches his bald head. I wonder how old he is. 2000s, he mutters. Not a lot left from those times. Stuff made from real wood. It lasts, you know. I look around his sooty room at the hunks of furniture. It's all from cycles way before the unknown times. 1800s, 1900s, perhaps. I suddenly realise he's sitting on a wooden box. Is that lead-lined? I ask nonchalantly. He stands, turns and stares at the box as if it's just time-travelled. I believe it is. His eyes glint, an uneven smile breaking. You've been looking for one of these, I sigh heavily. What's the deal? Catch me something good with that gun and it could be yours. I finish the tea and get up. No time like the present. Dac, I'll see you in a while. Something good. Rabbits won't do. A duck, perhaps. I leave Jake's warm hut, call the dogs and walk out into the sharp air. The swampy lake in the middle of the park place is quiet, nothing breaking the surface of the water. I stand for a long time looking at the dark reflections of trees and stripes of silver as the sun escapes the clouds. It's one of those moments when the senses open up. Sounds around me magnify, squeaking bare branches, a hedgehog walking, its low body scuffing up dead leaves, a distant shout. A memory flickers. A lake, white boat. A hand is gripping my arm. The recollection scurries as my eyes catch a movement within a clump of bushes near the water. The dogs are quiet, sensing my apprehension. We walk forwards 10 paces or so. A boar ambles towards the water. He stops for a moment, perhaps the scent of dog on a breeze. He's going to run. I twist, pull the gun around and raise it hesitantly. He's so beautiful. The thought of bread without hassle swamps the thought, and I fire. The motion knocking me backwards over a tree stump. The dogs run. I cover my ears from the squealing and whisper a prayer to the god of pigs. The dogs understand that this is a sacred body, something to be traded. They pace back, allowing me to root around in the knapsack for rope and straps. I attach the cords, tie a harness onto Fagin's massive back, and we walk back to the hut, dragging the quarry. Jake is standing outside holding a clay pipe and grinning behind its twisting smoke. Good, good. Think you got your box. A clock face later, I'm back at the church. The box has been cleaned and I've oiled the lock. The wood looks special, mahogany perhaps. I'd like to keep it. Instead, I load it onto Kafka and walk him out into the street, leaving the dogs asleep, paws twitching as they continue the hunt in their dreams. No one in Londonia really knows what time it is. It's either light or dark or shades in between. Jarvis and myself keep track as best we can, appointments kept where possible, and pocket watches set to a goodish estimate. The days and weeks for most people, however, have remained intact. Today is Monday, and there's a purposefulness in people striding walks, contacts to be made, debts to be sorted. Bread headquarters is busy. Both ovens are lit, smoke billowing from the sooted chimneys. Whatever the weather, the bread mech and his son Abel are stripped of vests and gins, clanging iron doors shut, hauling logs and wielding flat metal bread spades. I halt Kafka as we approach, and as usual take a moment to look at the bread compound built within the corpse of another building. Their dwelling consists of a small house flanked on both sides by 2 circular brick ovens. The rest of the yard is full of wood, fastidiously sorted into sections for size and age. Large blackened metal bins hold grain and flour, surrounded always by a cloud of hopeful birds. 2 great hounds preside over this domain, their chains clanking ominously at anyone's approach. Abel is bent over, scraping ash from one of the ovens as I call him. "Salut, Abel!" "Where's the patron?" He turns, brushes the flopping hair from his eyes and grins. "In the bath! Come in!" This seems odd, but I slide down from Kafka, unlash the box and follow him in. "He's in a filthy mood. Backache," he continues. "But you'll cheer him up." He pushes open the door, an ornate slab of wood with linen fold panels, in odd contrast to the rest of the makeshift building. I wonder what once magnificent abode it was hauled from. We walk into a hallway littered with horse paraphernalia, boots and flour sacks. To the right is the kitchen. Abel shows me in, and for a moment our eyes lock. He's beautiful under the coating of white. I expect he's thinking something similar. Given another situation, we might have had a liaison. Layers thrown off for an animalistic tussle amongst the flour dust and sacks. "Pa! Someone to see you!" he calls out, then glides a hand briefly over my cheek, his smile making sweat start up under my already too hot clothing. He returns to the oven clearing and me to pay a debt. The bath sits in the middle of the kitchen. Ancient and made of copper, it glows softly like an amber jewel in the shadowy room. A fire smoulders beneath it, filling the room with wood smoke. I approach warily. "Salut!" The bread mech is almost asleep in the water. He slides up a little and looks at me through the haze. "Ha! It's you! Come to ask for more on the slate?" "No, not at all. Here, look." I hold up the box and open it, showing him the dull grey of the lead. "Greatly good!" he grins. I've never seen him smile before. It casts away the years, leaving a younger gar than I'd thought. They must have had Abel almost as gosses. They. I've never pictured a dame within the bread compound, but there must have been someone. What happened to your wife?" I risk, as he's looking unusually benevolent. His eyes seem to darken at the question. "She died with Abel. He was in the wrong position, sideways or something." I think of the line across my skin and wonder again about an infant. "Sorry, not my business." "Not a problem." He heaves himself up from the greasy water and snaps a cloth from a chair back, rubbing himself all over furiously. "That's better. Nothing like a good soak to ease away the pain. Other than a good fuck, eh?" He's staring into my face, his smile and eyes just like his son. I step back and notice an impressive bulge under the worn cloth now casually tied about his waist. I'm not shy when it comes to sex, but a threesome with the breadmech and his son could be complicated, however pleasurable for a short while. And then there's the question of Tom. "Sorry, got to go." He smiles sleepily and strokes the bulge. "Maybe another time, maybe more. I've got a good business, you know that, Hoxton." Murder! A proposal of sorts, even before the morning has started. After a momentary image of me as a permanent filling in a breadmech sandwich, I thank him, take a proffered loaf and go out to Kafka, patiently waiting in the yard. The bread stowed, I climb onto the horse, steer him out of Bacon Street and towards Liverpool Street. This area that was once known as the City has become a zone to cross with care, its once gleaming buildings of monetary power unstable after violent storms from over the cycles. A few, perhaps designed with nature's fury in mind, still stand intact, their original contents piled in the streets, computers, drifts of pulpy paper and rotting furniture, all picked over uncountable times for their possible use. Some bods risk living in these glass constructions. I went to see a friend once when he was lodging high up in the top of one. I'd climbed the many flights of stairs and looked in at the different floors littered with makeshift beds and hurricane lamps. The wind sighed through broken windows, the building creaking and groaning as if it would soon lie down to die in a mighty, curving thump of glass and debris. My church is cold and busy with ghosts. Most people can't understand why I live there, but it feels as solid as a Park Place oak tree, its roots firmly embedded in the Londonian soil. I stir Kafka into a gallop away from the city zone, through Finsbury Circus, a forest of poplar and plane trees, where wild pigs sometimes doze in the mud, watchful of people with guns. Now we approach Barbican, where somewhere on Silk Street is the Mirror Dame's abode. I slow the horse to a walk as we pass through the decaying buildings of the Barbican Centre. If I had time, I would stop at the wooden shed at the side of the lake and barter a pike butty. The fish girl is there, hauling her latest catch from the murky depths. I greet her on passing. "How's business?" She shrugs. "Been better, long dark quarter and all. Still, we got some trout here now, when the herons leave any. Hungry?" "Later," I call, and steer Kafka on towards Silk Street, where we walk past semi-crumbled buildings until I spy the drinking house, still standing strangely intact. Someone has nailed a long board on the top of the original name. "Time and tide wait for no man," I read out loud, intrigued. "'Twas the jugged hare before," says a wiry mech, busy sweeping up piles of white dust. He stops and rests his hand on top of the broom. "You be searching for somebody?" "Oh, yes, I don't know her name, but she's a mirror dame." He points to a window. "Marina, she's on the second floor. I find your horse boy, or you'll be having no transport when you comes out. I just finished this." I notice patches of what looks like dried blood as he uncovers more pavement. "What happened?" I ask. "Sharks came last darking," he says as he sweeps. "They were doing a spot check in the area and just happened to turn up when a minor brawl was going off in the street. Really nothing. But they decided to set one of their examples and to use that bleeding waster smoke. Leaves dust everywhere." "How many were taken?" I ask, a screw of fear in my stomach. "Dunno. I was too busy trying to calm folks into time and tide. And now all this merd to clean up. Just got us straight after the last hailstorm too." Picking up a dustpan, he sweeps the dust up and into a box filled with bloodied clothing, then goes muttering into the drinking house. After a short while, a youth appears and nods at my offer of bacco. He ties Kafka to a lamp-post. "Good for a clock face?" More if I need it? I ask, having no idea how long this might take, even if she's there. Yep. I dismount and unstrap the carpet bag of possible exchange goods, heart fluttering now. The interior of the drinking house is warm, of velvet and flames that dance in the fireplace. The idea of sitting with a mug of ale and a book suddenly seems enticing. The landlady, a crow-like dame with black hair and beady eyes, recites me her ales. Nettle, dandelion, root, wild oat. We got hop too, but it'll cost you good. Deciding on nettle, I take the china mug and wander, looking at old advertisements and newspaper cuttings covering the walls. The largest framed picture is of a sleek silver car in front of an illuminated city. BMW, prepare to master the road ahead. I'm transfixed by the image, the lights in the buildings, the car, and the man in dark glasses. Difficult to imagine, innit? Says the dame. It was made just down the road from here. I think of the decaying fences, piles of rubble, and the dark of the dark at night, the spots of candlelight and stars. Yes, impossible. The newspaper pages describe ferocious weather and the solar storm precursors to WWW, now only remembered by a few, like Jarvis's sage dame mother. I stop my wandering and take the mug back to the bar. Another, love? Suggests the landlady. Thinking of my meeting to come, but ignoring my internal warning of the headache which will probably later emerge, I nod. As she pours, the room's only other client stands up, shuffles on a large tweed coat and heads for the door. Quiet today, I remark. Because of the sharks? Didn't help, mad heads. But before that we'd got quieter anyway after the rat flu. Foitling big outbreak. Got a lot of my clients. I was ill for don't know how long. Oh, we didn't have that. Mutopox was the last big haul. I thought I was for it in that one. She smiles grimly as she wipes down the bar. We ain't had that here yet. After warming myself at the stove for a time, I ask if Marina might be in. The landlady jerks her head towards the stairs. Second floor, black door. Draining the last of the beer, I hand the mug back and walk up the creaking stairs. I peer down the dark corridor. Marina's room is at the end. I pad across cracked linoleum, knock tentatively and wait, studying the inscriptions carved into the door's black paint. The wheel is come full circle. Time and tide wait for no man. The door opens suddenly, and I'm looking into the cold blue eyes again. Thought I'd be seeing you sometime, she says, her expression unreadable. You're lucky. I had someone to come this morn, but he died in night. Oh, sorry. Don't be. He was bastard, and had it coming. I was to tell him as much. She notices my eyes wandering over her person. Yes, I'm not what most people think to expect, you know. Youngish, fattish, not grey hair, not dark, mysterious eyes. But her eyes are mysterious. Glacial pools, unfathomable. So what can I trade you? I ask, the anxiety wavering into panic. Nothing, yet. I keep in bank, so to speak. Well, if you like. Calm down. I can't read you if torts are like pot of spaghetti. Come, sit here. I haven't looked at the room yet, too busy wondering about her. My eyes flit around its walls as I sit down in a scarred leather chair. The walls are black like the door, also covered with scratched inscriptions. Photographs and more newsprint half embedded like fossils break the oily surface. A large wooden bed lurks in one corner with many small dogs asleep amongst blankets and furs. Heating, she explains. The Italian greyhound, bred originally to warm the bed. The other heating seems to be a small, pot-bellied wood stove, effective as I find myself removing layers, or it could just be apprehension. Did you rename this place? I ask, now wanting to delay. Yes, she does not like beasts, and I like that quotation. Well, that's a good enough reason. I thought so. I sigh deeply and shift in the chair, nerves pricking. I'm going to give you drink, Marina continues. Something to unravel your mind, to lay threads out. She goes over to a small cupboard, takes out a decanter and pours out a measure of something into a shot glass. Knock back in one. I do, and a brimming warmth floods my veins. I splay in the chair like a contented starfish and am ready for whatever transpires. She pulls up another chair and takes my hand. No crystal ball, no star-spotted cloth, just her odd, goat-like eyes fixed on mine. The room is silent apart from a few clicks from the stove and the occasional snuffle from the dog pile. After what seems like 50 cycles, she sits back, her eyes wet, cheeks flushed. You have quite a history, lady. Can you see it all? No, there are blocks. Your mind, it has been partly cleared at some point. Cleared? It happens. You have been in sanctuary. They can do that. I feel my bladder contract, its contents pressing to escape. I feel sick too, but strangely excited. What did you see? She ignores my question, but asks her own. What do you first remember? I recall hard slats and biting cold. I was lying down on a wooden bench. The sky was half blue, half black, with points of light. My hands felt wetness covering a long wool coat wrapped around my body. I was aware that I was me, but I didn't know who me was. Then I sat up and tried to remember something, but it was like trying to recall a dream that's just out of reach, shrinking away. There was a rectangle of metal on a chain around my neck. I took it over my head and looked at it. There was only one word. Hoxton. You thought it was your name? Well, yes, well it is. I don't have another. You never consider this to be odd name? A word is just a word, but she's right. I never did make a connection. Too busy scraping a life together with whatever name I thought I had. I leave these wonderings as Marina continues. The park, where you walk, where is it? I don't know. I never did remember. But you do. It's written in your memory. Hoxton Square. You saw a sign, but never recalled name. I think perhaps you were left there, and someone forgot to remove delivery note. I'm silent for a long time, wondering if I ever had a name before, and how I lost so many cycles. Could I ever recall them? Was there a way? A tear escapes and wends its way to my lips. I taste the salt, strange against the lingering sweetness of the drink. I expect her to comfort me, but she just sits as if in a trance. You dream often? She asks abruptly. Yes. Of the same places, people? Sometimes. You are led to a lake by someone, a mech? Yes. I remember with a start the real reason that I'm sitting in this room. The goss, you said I have an infant. Marina's brow furrows slightly. Yes, you do. Fair hair and eyes of green water. I want to scream out all the questions piling up. Where was he born? There was a long room, other women lying down. Her voice is very quiet now, eyes shut and head bowed. I fear the end of this session is coming. She looks up. You have to leave now. I will sleep. Can I come again? Maybe. I don't know if I find something else. What about the exchange? I let you know. I see where you live. Hauling myself from the depths of the chair, I feel frozen despite the warm room. I pull on my discarded layers and walk towards the door. Marina climbs onto the bed, scattering dogs as she covers herself. She pulls the blankets over her head and the pack regroup. As I leave the room, she calls out, voice muffled. "Thank your dame's request. You will have luck." Back downstairs, the landlady stares at me and refills my mug from earlier. "This one's on the house, love." She signals to the horseboy just coming in. "Give her a bit more time, eh?" I sink down into a chair by the fire, wondering if I will ever feel warm again.